Editing this is going to be a challenge as I drink more tequila. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Beth. I am a 37-year-old attorney living in the DC area with my husband. And for today's video, it's kind of an interesting one. So some of the videos I make kind of go from concept to execution in like a week, especially when there's a new release. And some of them kind of percolate for a while as I'm gathering products, that kind of thing. So I had initially thought of doing this video earlier in the summer, and I'll explain why, but I think it's also a perfect time to do it. So essentially this video, as I mentioned in my latest Ulta haul video, is going to be a showcase of some different Hispanic-owned brands, namely Treslúce and Araceli Beauty. And I first thought of doing this video over the summer because you may have seen there was some internet drama, I guess you could call it, between the two brands, where Araceli, which is a very small independently owned beauty brand, accused Treslúce of basically copying some of their ideas, having kind of a similar, I guess, founding story, that kind of thing. So as I mentioned, these are both Hispanic-owned brands, and for each of the women running these companies, they say that they've taken inspiration from their Mexican heritage. So they both say that they're using basically agave as an ingredient, and there are some other similarities that Araceli kind of pointed out between their products and Treslúce. So I will link some Reddit threads down below. Even when I first kind of had the concept for this video, I never wanted to put myself in the position where I was trying to kind of arbitrate who had a better claim to Mexican heritage or the themes or anything that they were embracing with their beauty brand. Obviously, I am very white and I just don't feel like that's my place to say. So I'll let you do your own research, and you can choose to support either one of these brands or both or neither, according to what stands out to you. So the original concept for this video was just going to compare formulas of different products, that kind of thing, and just let the makeup speak for itself. And my goal isn't really to say at the end of this video whether one brand is superior to the other in terms of its formulations, but basically I'm going to kind of split my face in half and do Araceli on I guess my right side and Treslúce on my left side. So I'm going to just see how the products look. Again, I'm not trying to pick a winner here. I'm just showcasing two different Hispanic-owned brands, and to get to the point about, I think this is a perfect time to film this video and why I wanted to go ahead and do it, was that we are in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month. So it's early October, and I thought this would be a perfect time to showcase some brands. So obviously there's a ton of competition in the beauty space, but I think in terms of taking inspiration from Hispanic cultures, I think there's room for both, is basically what I'm getting at. Like, I understand why a small independent makeup company would be kind of upset that this other company headed by, you know, a huge pop star, Becky G, probably backed by a lot of money, that kind of thing. They're in Ulta. I understand why they would be upset by it, and I'm recognizing that, but I don't think that one brand can kind of lay claim to an entire country or its ingredients. So that's kind of where I'm coming down on it, just so you're aware. And I did go ahead and make myself a margarita because, as we said, a lot of these products are inspired by agave, tequila, that kind of thing, and I just felt like it was necessary. I had to. October isn't traditionally a month where I feel compelled to make myself a margarita, but for this video, I thought it was warranted. And I'm glad that I got all of the kind of sticky stuff out of the way towards the beginning of the video. I feel like margaritas are way too easy to drink quickly. Oh, and I did want to mention before we get into it that there will be a small giveaway at the end of this video, so make sure to stay tuned to the end if you're interested in winning some of these products. So let's go ahead and start with an overview of the products. It's kind of an assortment. There are three main, I guess, categories of products where I have one from each brand. So to the extent you'd like to see a comparison of the two brands and their products, those will be the areas where you can see them. If I don't have a comparison product from the other brand, I'll just apply it kind of to the entire face. So I have an interesting assortment. I think both of these brands have been featured in BoxyCharms or Ipsies, that kind of thing. So some things have just kind of come in over time, and I pulled them out of my collection for this video. So for Araceli, I have a set of 2 little sponges. So I'll use this to apply my foundation. And I also have a pair of tweezers from them, which is not a product I typically use on camera. I'll maybe just, I don't know, find something to tweeze really quickly. I think both of these brands do sell false eyelashes, but I'm not a huge false eyelash wearer. I kind of break them out from time to time, but obviously tweezers are frequently a tool people use for eyelashes. And then for blush, I have from Treslúce. I think Becky G made up this word, so I don't feel as bad about mispronouncing it. This is the Ready to Bounce Cream Blush in the shade Vacation. So this is a cream blush, and I think Araceli might have powder blushes. I don't think they have a cream blush, so I'll just use that all over the face. And then the 3 products where I have one from each, I have the highlighters. So from Araceli, I have 2 of their tequila highlighters, Con Agave, I think it says. So I have the shade Reposado and the shade Blanco. So I'll show you what those look like. So we'll see what shade I apply from that. And then I have 2 of these highlighter palettes from Treslúce. I think I got these in like a boxy pop-up, and I think I ordered maybe Lucette Glow. And again, I apologize if I'm butchering anything. I think I ordered this one because it has the lighter shades, but then they initially shipped this one, and then I had to rebuy this one. So that is why I have 2 different ones. So I'll show you as best I can maybe some of the closest shades, and then apply whichever one I think will be either most flattering on me or closest to one of the Araceli ones. I guess we'll just see. For eyeshadow, I have from Treslúce the La Flor de Mexico palette, which I picked up from Ulta. I think I have seen this in maybe like an Ipsy or BoxyCharm. And that's part of the reason why it takes a while to film these videos if I'm trying to pick up products I think are likely to be in those pop-up sales, but you're kind of at the whim of when the sales are, how slow the shipping is, that kind of thing. So anyway, so I'll be using this, and this is obviously a large palette. So this has, I believe, 18 shades. So a lot of different options for this, but I'm going to try to pick out the 2 shades that are closest to this little duo that I have, which has the shades Sun and Cacao. I think you can purchase just this little duo on the Araceli website, but they pulled these 2 shades probably to make for like an Ipsy bag or something. They pulled it from a larger palette. So I'll talk about prices and that sort of thing as we go through. And then the last products I have that are kind of direct comparisons, I have some gel eyeliners. I think this one has both a black and a bronze. And then I also have, I think I have a black from Araceli. I don't typically wear black all that often. But I also have this duo with a bronze and an olive. So I'm kind of thinking maybe the bronzes compared to each other would be a good bet, and kind of flattering to the eye colors I plan to wear as well. And then the other 2 products that don't have, again, a comparison, I got the Araceli Mascara, which I think is a new launch for them. This is the Monarca Mascara with avocado oil. And I haven't used this yet, so it'll be a fresh tube of mascara. So I just want to kind of give you that caveat, because mascaras sometimes look better after they've been open for a little bit, but it is what it is. So we'll see how it applies, and I'll try to leave a pinned comment if I notice any flaking or smudging after a few hours. And then finally, I have a liquid lip tint from Treslúce. So this is in the shade Daring. So we'll try that one out as well. Okay, so I think that is everything. Ironically, the tequila will help with any discomfort from tweezing. These are the tweezers. I'm a pretty kind of hardcore Tweezerman fan. I mean, these feel kind of decently sharp anyway. This isn't really the best lighting to be doing this. All right, so I don't know that you really need to see a demo of tweezers, but okay, so it grabbed the hair, which is what you want. So these seem fine. I don't think that they're anything you need to like rush out and get, but I mean, they weren't completely ineffectual. Okay, so along the way, I have a few other Hispanic-owned brands that I wanted to incorporate. Editing this is going to be a challenge as I drink more tequila. Yeah, so a few other brands. Obviously, Rare Beauty is owned by Selena Gomez. So I tried to pull as many as I could. Obviously, some products are going to be kind of the same as what I'm trying out from these two brands, so I couldn't apply like 15 different highlighters and blushes. I mean, I could, but. So I am using the Rare Beauty, this is the illuminating primer. So it definitely does have a bit of like kind of an iridescence to it. And I'll just show you here on the back of my hand. You can kind of get a look at the difference that made. My hands as well. Okay, so I'll probably wash those while I am dampening the sponge. So that just tore open, that was easy enough. Okay, so I'll probably just use one of these, maybe the light blue. So I believe these are the same size, which is convenient for like before and after. So I'm going to go dampen this and then I'll be back and I'll show you the size and then I'll use it to apply my foundation. Okay, so that is what the before and after looks like. Quite dramatic, as you can see. So nice cushy kind of feeling. It's fairly firm. I mean, for a sponge like this, it's not, I think it feels good. It's just, it does have a decent amount of kind of resistance to it. Okay, so I always start off with a corrector, and I'm not aware of a Hispanic-owned company that has a corrector. I could be completely missing something, but go ahead and leave in the comments if you know of anything. And I do want to, I think, apply some lip oil while I'm doing this. So I'm gonna go in with my Wander Beauty. All right, and then for foundation, I'm just gonna use the NARS Light Reflecting. Try to just stick with something I know works. Obviously, Rare Beauty has different foundations, tinted moisturizers, complexion products, that kind of thing, but I don't have like a full face of Rare Beauty or anything. Her tinted moisturizer is kind of on my list of things to try, but it just hasn't really been the priority to purchase. All right, so I like to just dot on and then go in. And I do like to basically use the same application method with the Beauty Blender. So I am pretty familiar with how this product applies with a sponge. Again, I think this just feels a little bit bigger. Let me go dampen my Beauty Blender. All right, so yeah, I'd say the Araceli is maybe a tad bigger. It's hard to do this. Maybe just a tad bigger in both like circumference and height. Yeah, and I feel like this one just seems more, seems squishier. I feel like it's one of those like automated tests that you see in like industry demos or something. So I'm not saying one is better than the other, it's just often a matter of preference. And I'm trying to give you the information to make your own decision about what you would like to use. So we'll keep it pretty simple. Kind of my go-tos. I have the Kosas Brow Gel. I think we will return to the Araceli sponge when I apply some like cream bronzers and that kind of thing. Cream blush. All right, and so I do have some concealing to do, so I'm gonna use the Dior concealer. Just get a bit of that kind of on the back of the hand for some blemishes. These guys are pretty fresh. this weird one in like my hairline, which I don't know, I might just kind of ignore. So I like to use my finger for concealer rather than a sponge sometimes, just because I feel like it helps retain some of the coverage on blemishes. But I do sometimes use a sponge for under eye concealer, so I think I'll just use the Ethereal Light from Too Faced. Again, feel free to leave any of your favorite products from a Hispanic-owned brand that I'm not featuring. I mean, I obviously don't have every single makeup item in the world. I mean, this one really does kind of blend out very easily, but just for the sake of the demo, so usually I use the kind of more pointed end. Yeah, I feel it's definitely kind of usable in that context if you like to kind of blend out your concealer with a sponge. All right, so before we get to blush, I think I'll start off with some contour. So this is from KVD, and I guess whether you think of this as a Hispanic brand or not, it's up to you. It's kind of founded by someone from a Hispanic background, but that person is kind of persona non grata now, so I do like a little bit of contour though. And I do have the Rare Beauty stick bronzer, so I'll use that. And I'm just gonna use my BK 101 brush to blend the contour out. And again, like, a darn spot. I have been using some like micro dart brightening patches, which I think is helping. I also have like an LED mask that I've been trying to use, and I think that may be helping, and also just time helps as well. What do I want to do next? Just contour the nose a little bit. And then for the bronzer, so I do have the Rare Beauty bronzer stick in the shade Happy Soul, which is kind of, I guess, a slightly more cool toned option rather than the lightest one. So I'm just going to kind of go along the hairline and kind of on the cheeks, and then I'll blend that out with the sponge, see how it blends that product. I'm not sure, I guess it does okay with a sponge. I don't know if I've tried blending this with a sponge before versus just a brush. I think it may take just a little bit more effort, but I don't think that's the sponge's fault, it's just the product. And we're back. So I had to take a brief intermission for my husband to kind of do the next stage of dinner. And I realized I forgot to give you the prices of some of the tools I've already used. So the little 2-pack of sponges was, so it was $24 for 2, which is not bad compared to like a beauty blender, which is like $20 just by its own. The tweezers were $12, which is again not bad. And I think that was it as far as the kind of featured products so far. So the next stage will be to apply the first Treslúce product, which is their Ready to Bounce Cream Blush in the shade Vacation, which looks a little scary in the pan maybe, but we'll see how it does. So I'm going to use the same sponge that I used earlier and just see how it does. I think this might be a cream to powder formula, if I'm remembering correctly. And let's go ahead and slap this on. Okay, yeah, I think a sponge is probably a good way to go for me anyway on my skin tone. It's a little bright for me, but it's a pretty color. So this, by the way, is $16, and they call this a bright fuchsia. So again, I think I was just kind of at the mercy of whatever Ipsy or BoxyCharm decided to send me. It's not very tacky or anything like that, so it might be a good product for someone who doesn't really enjoy like traditional cream blushes. I feel like I just need to even myself out just a tad. Yeah, and honestly, like the way I typically apply a cream blush, usually I just take a finger and yeah, this almost has like a putty texture to it. I don't know if you can tell as I'm like pushing into it there. In a way, it's kind of similar to the MAC Glow Play blushes. So if you like that formula, you might like this one. And I think, just trying to see how well it blends. I think, unless the MAC ones are on sale, I think this is probably about half the price. Yeah, normally I would just take finger and kind of dab it into the product. You might also try a synthetic brush. I really like this Angie A507 from BK brushes for this type of formula. I always get confused looking into the monitor, like what side I want to. Yeah, and you know, if you do kind of get too much color payoff, you can, as I will show you, I'll take a clean sponge. And normally I wouldn't use the same sponge that I use for my foundation for blush, so I might have a little bit kind of left over, but I'll just kind of pick up a little bit more foundation on this other sponge and just go over the top to kind of tone it down a little bit. Yeah, I think that's kind of a more flattering amount of blush on my skin tone anyway. Okay, so I think that is it for kind of the base. So I need to powder. I haven't powdered anywhere yet. So I'm going to use the Charlotte Tilbury powder, and I'll just use this little e.l.f. brush. Make sure there aren't any creases. I think you could probably get away with putting that blush on a already powdered base, just do the texture of it. And I like to kind of switch to a fluffier, bigger brush for the rest of the face. I do have dry skin. All right, so we are set. All right, so for highlighter, so I'll show you the 2 shades of the Araceli highlighter that I have because I only have 2 shades. And these, by the way, retail for $24 each. So I have 2 shades. I have, like I said, the Reposado and the Blanco shades. And these are just like in little cardboard packaging. They do have a mirror, little insert, and then they're not removable. So this one is Reposado, if it'll focus. There we go. All right, so that one is Reposado, and this one is Blanco. So I think these are 2 different types of tequila. I like a margarita now and then, but I'm not a huge like tequila expert. So this one is Reposado and that one is Blanco. And honestly, I don't know. These might both be a little deep for me. I think the Blanco shade is probably going to be best. I think that's this one. You do get a good amount of products. You get 8 grams or 0.28 ounces. Yeah, I mean, they're both a little kind of golden for my taste. And obviously not every brand has to put out products that cater to everyone. That's fine. Okay, and let's talk about these Treslúce highlighters. So it looks like each of these are $26 a piece, but you do get 4 shades. So it's kind of 4 shades versus 1. And this one contains 16 grams of product. So yeah, I think on the whole, Araceli's prices tend to be just a little bit higher, but that's not surprising given the, you know, size of the company and all that. So this is the Lucetti Glow, I think it is. Why is my camera having trouble? So this one is the one that I think is a little bit more friendly to my skin tone. You can tell it has basically a bright white. And then the one that I received by accident is the Lucetti Shimmer. And I guess I'll try to find the most similar shades. So you can tell it has much deeper options in that one. All right, so let's do a little swatch comparison here. There was one deeper shade of the Araceli highlighter that I did not pick up because I did not think it would be usable on my skin tone. So if you do have a deeper skin tone, you may wish to look into that. Those are the 4 shades there. So the 2 closest to my wrist are the Araceli, and the 4 closer to my elbow are the 4 from the Lucetti, whichever the lighter one was, either shimmer or glow, I can't decide. So obviously you have that stark white that is very different. I think this one also has more of a pink tone. Otherwise, I'd say maybe these 2 are the most similar, and then these 2. They're not direct dupes or anything like that, but as far as kind of the tone and color level, I'd say those are probably the closest. And I will go ahead and swatch the other quad for you. This one seems somewhat similar to, I have it on my hand still. It's not gonna really show up that well. This one seems a little bit closer to the Araceli, the lightest shade. I don't know if you can tell right there. Those 2 seem kind of similar, but otherwise I think these are pretty different. I'm not sure, again, I don't have that darkest shade of the Araceli, so I don't know if any of these are similar to that shade. Okay, so even though I don't think it's really going to be the best option for me from the Treslúce range, I'm gonna go in with this shade Daydream from the darker quad because I think it's closest to the shade Blanco from the Araceli range. And if I need to lighten it up, I can. I'm not going anywhere today, so it doesn't really matter too much how I look at the end of this. I'm trying to kind of get a similar look on both sides of the face based on the shades I'm choosing, but just recognizing that I am using different products, you know, they're not going to be identical. So this is the shade Daydream, and I'm using it on Anastasia A23, and I think I'm gonna go on this cheek. Yeah, so it's probably gonna be texture enhancing. I don't think this is, I don't have like particularly bad texture, I wouldn't say, but I don't know that I would recommend this formula if you do. So going to use my Sigma switch here to try to knock off any product still on the brush. And then using the shade Blanco from Araceli. Yeah, I think maybe that shade is looking a tad lighter. And I think I might have a little bit more texture on this cheek anyway. I don't think either one of them is like super smoothing or anything like that. So I just swatched the lighter quad from Treslúce against the Araceli again, just to kind of refresh my memory. And I think it was kind of the yellowy one that looked kind of similar to the Blanco shade. So that one is the Araceli, that one is the Treslúce. This is the shade Upgrade. I'm gonna see what happens when I apply this one. Yeah, it would be this cheek. So the Araceli I don't think makes a shade really light enough for me because I think you can tell when I'm looking forward that there's a little bit of a cast there. So I'm not kind of judging them for that, I'm just noting it. So I'm going to take some of that white shade on this cheek. I'm going to look very, very kind of frosted by the end of this. Yeah, if you don't like kind of the traditional, very intense highlighter, you may not enjoy this. I'm going to take the same brush I applied my powder with, and I'll take my powder again. I just want to try and buff a little bit. Yeah, I think that did the trick. Still pretty highlighted, but... Okay, so that was the first stage, and then next up we have the eyes. So I have, like I said, eyeshadows from both brands. I'm going to start off with some eyeshadow primer. This one is from Fenty. So personally, I like to set my primer, so I'm going to take, again, my same Charlotte Tilbury powder here and use the same little powder brush I use underneath my eyes and just set the eyelids. Using a little Sonia G mini booster, I guess I will start off with this little duo from Araceli because that is what I'm going to be reaching. I'm starting to wonder if I confused which side I used the highlighters on. Normally I try to use a mnemonic device, and so if there's an R or an L in the name of the brand, I will stick with that, but both brands have both R's and L's. And I'm also looking at myself, like the mirror image of myself, so I think I'm sticking with Araceli on this side. So, like I said, this is a little duo, and those are the two shades, very kind of everyday friendly, I think. Oh, I almost forgot, I do have some brushes. Good thing I was taking my time applying these. So this little duo, by the way, from Araceli is $12. The 6-pan that this little duo comes from is $30. I do happen to have some little brushes from Alamar Cosmetics. So let's crack into these. Again, I got these in like some kind of Ipsy bag, I think. So it looks like there's a little kind of shader and also this kind of interesting fan type brush. And then this like very small crease type blender brush. And I believe these are all synthetic. So this one says it's the Detail Diffuser brush. This one is the Pigment Packer brush. And this one is the Crease Control brush. That's a really interesting idea for a crease brush. If you're trying to do a cut crease, maybe. Okay. So let's start off with this Detail Diffuser brush and going into the matte shade. This did kind of, I don't know if you can tell, there's a bit of kick up in the pan. There's no mirror on the inside of that little duo. So just doing kind of a basic 2 shadow look here. I think honestly I might have to reach for maybe just a couple brushes. This seems a little flimsy. Like, I wish it were, I don't know, maybe a tad bigger, a tad more dense, although I can make it work, and I think blended fairly well. I just feel like I want to go around the edges maybe, but not terrible. And I kind of want to try out this other brush. This is kind of a more unique shape almost. So I think I want to take just that little edge and dip it into the product, and I want to see if I can just kind of run it down underneath. I think that worked pretty well. All right, and then I'm just taking whatever is left and just kind of playing with it a little bit. I think in a way, so I'm gonna knock off excess maybe. I dipped in again, and I was worried this shade would be kind of too pigmented on me, and it is definitely pigmented, but I think I can make it work on my skin tone. I'm trying to just kind of keep it elevated and lifted here, kind of creating that outer V shape. Taking my Sigma switch again. I just saw, by the way, that they have a travel version of this, which I am seriously considering picking up because we are planning to go to London this Christmas. It's our first kind of major trip in a few years for obvious reasons. So kind of taking stock of all the travel accessories and everything I have. Holiday is always a fun time to kind of conduct that analysis, if you will, because so many brands come out with little kits and deals for the holidays. Still not quite as blended as I might like, so I think I'm going to take my Sonia G... brushes are falling everywhere. My Sonia G Jumbo Blender, same Charlotte Tilbury powder. I think this just kind of, like I said, it's like a big eraser, airbrush tool. Picks up more product. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it there for now, and then I'm gonna go in with this little packer brush from Alamar, and just going in with a dry brush to start. All right, so I'm gonna see what happens if I wet the brush. Make sure to get the spray on the actual bristles. And then going into the same shade. Just with a dry brush, it was a very nice kind of office shimmer, I would call it. Like you want something a little light on the eyes, but nothing too kind of foiled or metallic. And then if I just go in with my finger, just to see what that does. Yeah, I think that's gonna get you the most payoff if that's what you're after. So some variation of that is kind of my go-to eye look, kind of a shimmery look on the lid with a kind of matte light brown in the crease. I don't know that this particular combination or formula is my favorite. I feel like there's a little bit here that just doesn't really want to seem to blend, but it's pretty anyway. All right, so let's try the Treslúce shadows. So this is the La Flor de Mexico palette, and as I showed you, this is a larger palette, obviously. The cool thing about this palette is that the mirror does pop out, which is actually really handy for YouTubers so you don't get the reflection. But yeah, that is the palette. And this retails for $30 for the 18 pan. So the price of the 6 pan Araceli palette is the same as the price of the 18 pan. In this one you get, I think, about 15 grams of product versus, it doesn't say, but this little duo is, I think each shadow is a gram, if I'm reading this right. So it would be 6 grams of product. So yeah, like I said, I think on the whole, Araceli is a little bit more expensive, which is not a bad thing. I'm just observing. I'm trying to look at this and kind of figure out what is going to be the most similar. This shade Passiflora looks like it might be similar to the Araceli. A little bit of a deeper brown maybe. All right, so those are most of the mattes of the Treslúce palette versus this one in the Araceli one. I think this shade looks to be closest to maybe a combination of these two or that one. So maybe I'll try to just kind of dip my brush into both of those and see how it does. Like I said, we're trying to kind of get as close as possible in terms of the overall shades, but I'm not suggesting that these are dupes by any means. So I'm just gonna dip my brush into Petunia and Chocolate Cosmos and see how we do. Same brush that I cleaned off. I don't think that's bad actually in terms of trying to get close to the color. And part of it is just some shadows are harder to formulate than others, so I don't want to kind of handicap one of the brands by trying to use shades that are harder. All right, so same type of brush. And I dipped into both shades again. I think it's a little harder to kind of get both shades evenly on such a fine brush. I think again, I'm going to take a little bit of powder, just normal face powder, and a Rufford number 3 brush, and try to soften it a little bit underneath. I might need to go in a little heavier on this side just to kind of make it as similar as possible. I have to say, I find this brush from Alamar to be really interesting because I don't think I have many, if any, brushes in my collection quite like it. I think going into Petunia just with this little kind of crease blender, you can see that's definitely kind of a warmer shade. So I think it needs that kind of Chocolate Cosmos to kind of cool it down a bit. So I'm kind of, you know, creating like an artificial environment here in a way, because I'm trying to end up with a result that looks similar, whereas if you were to use either of these palettes, you would probably just stick with one. All right, so going back into the Araceli just to try and kind of even them up here. Kind of like how this was blended out before, but like I said, we're kind of trying to achieve a particular effect here. And of course, this eye doesn't have the shimmer shadow on it yet. I think that might be as kind of good as I can reasonably get the two. Okay, so let's try to find a similar shade in the shimmers here. So unfortunately with this palette, there doesn't seem to be a good like direct comparison. So that is the Araceli, and all the other ones are shades from the Treslúce palette. I think I might try this one. It just seems to be the closest. You can tell the finish on these is much different. This one is a little bit more of kind of your traditional satin or shimmer, but everything else has a little bit more of a texture to it, I would say. So the Birds of Paradiso is kind of a duochrome. So again, not saying one finish is better than the other necessarily, it's just kind of a difference in preference sometimes. So going in with Birds of Paradiso, I mean, if I were to kind of observe anything, I would say this is a little bit more modern in terms of like finish and texture. So that was a dry brush that I cleaned off. I'll go ahead and spray it now. Yeah, much more sparkly on this one. And then finally just using my finger and pressing that on the eyelid. Yeah, so definitely a different finish there. One is much more sparkly and intense, and one is much more kind of, I guess, everyday appropriate. All right, so I took another break to actually eat dinner, and there may have been some wine involved with that. So yeah, this video is just gonna be super loose, I guess. So the next stage is going to be eyeliner. So I have, like I said, a couple shades that are very similar. I think the Araceli Gel Pencil Eyeliner retails for $16, and I have the shade Bronze, which is a metallic brown. And for the Treslúce Eyeliner, I think those retail for $12, and I have the shade Accomplished, which is a shimmer copper. So like I said, I have this little duo from Araceli. This actually came with two different shades. One is the bronze and one is the olive, and I think there's also a sharpener in here. So it's at the other end of the package. Yeah, which is a really nice touch to include a little sharpener. So this is the shade Bronze, just to do a little bit of swatch comparison. So that's Bronze. And then the other shade in this little duo is Olive. Just do it down here. So really great color combination for fall. And I don't feel like you often see an olive shade in eyeliner. So let's pull out the Treslúce ones. So these have a transparent cap, which is kind of interesting. So like I said, this is the shade Accomplished. So it's a much kind of brighter coppery type color. And then the other shade is the black, which is Fuerte. I might go ahead and use the black because I do want to just compare formulas without too much distraction. So this is the Araceli eyeliner in black, and this is on the bottom. I want to say that the Araceli has a little bit more of a satin texture, but those are the different ones that I have anyway. So I think I want to go ahead and spray some Fix Plus because, like I said, it's been a little while since I first applied the face makeup. And just to keep things looking fresh. Okay, so I'll start with the Treslúce. So I'll apply that to this eye and then apply the Araceli to the same side that has the eyeshadow from Araceli. And how I like to do my eyeliner, so usually I just kind of go in like little dashes. I think I did the wrong eye. Okay, so it's not gonna be perfect here, guys, I'm sorry. And then I will take a little angled brush like this one from BK. This is the 208. And just kind of run that along to smudge it out. And then a lot of times with a liner like this, I will take the brush and just kind of run it across to pick up product. And create a little baby wing. Mostly just to create a little bit of lift on the outer corner. I do have hooded eyes, so I don't try to do anything too dramatic. But I just find that that creates a little bit of lift and creates a nice finish to the eyeliner. Okay, so in the other eye, I will use the Araceli. So I've kind of reversed these. Same basic technique though. All right, and then taking just a little kind of cotton bud here. I feel like I just needed to clean up that side just a tad. And just to kind of compare maybe the longevity, that seems pretty set, as does that one. So yeah, the Araceli, like if you can tell on my hand, it seems to have more of a satin finish almost. It's not shimmery, but it just seems to have a little bit more sheen than the Treslúce. Yeah, again, not saying one is better than the other, but just observing the differences. Okay, so I think we are finally ready to go in for the mascara. And this is just from Araceli. So this is, again, the Monarca mascara. This retails for $19. It says, achieve longer, stronger, and healthier lashes with our avocado oil enriched formula. Has a pretty sleek black tube like so. And the brush, it almost reminds me a little bit of like the Maybelline Great Lash. Like it seems like it's a natural brush, but the actual bristles are pretty far apart. And again, like this is just a initial application, so it hasn't had a chance to dry out or anything. I might as well apply this to the lower lashes because, like I said, I'm not going anywhere. So let's see how this does. Not too bad, actually. I think having a less dense brush actually kind of helps. So normally I use the Clinique Bottom Lash, which has a very kind of tiny cone-shaped brush to it, but I think a larger one, which has fewer bristles across the entire like mascara wand, also works. So that's one coat. So far, I think it's pretty. I mean, it is, I think, decently good at keeping the curl, which is why I normally reach for a waterproof. Obviously, I'm curling my lashes. So even as like a brand new mascara, it doesn't seem too wet, which I think can kind of destroy whatever curl you put in your lashes. All right, so that's just one coat. I'll go in for a second. Not try to like hit myself in the head with it. All right, forget that. Yeah, so I still don't think it's as good as my Tarte Lights Camera Splashes, but I think it kept a decent amount of curl, and I like the overall effect it's giving me. I like kind of a more, I guess, volumized lash. They haven't completely destroyed the curl, but they're still not quite as lifted as the Tarte, I don't think. So that is the mascara. And finally, we have the lipstick. So this is the Liquid Lip Tint, which retails for $18. And I have the shade Daring, which is a mocha nude or rose brown. So that is what that looks like. I only have one lip product from either brand. So that is what the actual component looks like, and has a very kind of elongated applicator. And I'm going in without a lip liner. I might have. So it's not a terrible color on me. So this retails for $18 if I didn't already say that. And it says it's hydrating and moisturizing. So this isn't a liquid lipstick or anything like that. I think it's just meant to be kind of a, I don't know, like light gloss oil type formula. So you can see there is definitely transfer, but I feel like this would be kind of an easy throw in your bag type product depending on the shade you choose. So not quite as glossy as your typical gloss Why is my camera not focusing? You'd think I was giving my my camera to the tequila, but anyway. Yeah, so it's nice. So it's just kind of like a more pigmented lip oil, I guess I would call it. Not a super glossy gloss, kind of more of a hybrid product. All right, so that is the finished look. Let me know what you think of all the products I tried out. I think with the exception of the obviously different texture on the eyelids, you might not know that I've used different products, but here we are. So let's go ahead and talk about the giveaway. So I put all the items in this little Ipsy bag that I have, and these are obviously unused products, but I did kind of get some repeat products. So I have in here this little duo. This is the Treslúce Beauty Lucette Glow Duo. This has the shades, is it not going to tell me? Okay, so this has the shades Cosmic and Upgrade in it. And I'll go ahead and swatch my version of those. So those would be basically the bottom two of this quad. So this one is Cosmic and this is Upgrade. So that is what those look like, kind of the more pinky shade and a little bit more of a golden highlight. So those will be the shades in the duo. And then I also have an Araceli eyeliner in bronze. So that would be that shade right there, not the one that I used, obviously. I have a different one. And then I do have a Treslúce eyeliner in Accomplished, so that would be that shade right there. And also I have the same lip tint that I have. So this is the same shade Daring in the Treslúce liquid lip tint. So that is 4 products in this little pouch. And if you are interested in winning these, I will have all the information down below, but I think I will probably do it through Rafflecopter just to make sure that there aren't any issues with the scammers on YouTube and that only the people who want to enter the giveaway actually enter, because otherwise just leaving a comment, it gets a little murky in terms of who actually wants to win or not. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it interesting. Again, let me know what you think of all the products I tried out, or if there are any other products from Hispanic-owned brands that you would recommend. I will have everything, of course, linked in the description box down below, and please subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you guys are all doing well and staying safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.